What if the world as you know it simply ended? Not with a bang, but with a terrifying silence. Imagine our global network of trade, communication, and knowledge, our entire civilization, just collapsing. Not over centuries, but within a single lifetime. Cities you hear about every day, turning to ghost towns, the ability to write, to record our own history, forgotten. All of our progress, reset to zero. This isn't a hypothetical scenario. This isn't a movie plot. It happened. To understand the scale of this catastrophe, we first have to travel back in time, over 3,000 years ago, to the late Bronze Age. And let me tell you, this was no primitive world. This was a glittering, interconnected age, home to superpowers whose very names still echo with power and mystery. You had the mighty Egyptian New Kingdom, with its god-kings and colossal monuments. There were the formidable Hittites in Anatolia, masters of diplomacy and chariot warfare. And across the sea, the heroic Mycenaeans of Greece, the civilization of Agamemnon and the Trojan War, with their fortress palaces and their far-flung merchants. These weren't isolated empires. They were part of a vibrant international club. Think of it as the first great globalized world. Letters written on clay tablets flew between royal courts, discussing trade deals, royal marriages, and military alliances. Cargo ships, laden with copper from Cyprus, tin from Afghanistan, fine pottery from Greece, and priceless glass from Egypt, crisscrossed the Mediterranean Sea. It was a complex, sophisticated, and deeply interconnected system. For a time, it must have felt eternal, invincible, and then it all went dark. Around the year 1200 BC, this brilliant world came to a sudden, violent, and almost total end. When archaeologists began to dig, they weren't just finding old ruins. They were uncovering a crime scene that spanned the entire known world. One by one, the great cities burned. In Greece, the grand palaces of Mycenae and Pylos were consumed by fire and abandoned forever. In Anatolia, the Hittite capital of Hattusa, once the heart of an empire, was sacked and left to crumble. Along the coast of Syria, the bustling port city of Ugarit was so violently destroyed that we even found a clay tablet in a kiln, a letter from a desperate king begging for aid, literally half-baked as the city fell. It was a message that was never sent. The destruction was so complete that entire cultures vanished. Writing systems like the Mycenaean Linear B disappeared. For hundreds of years afterward, people in Greece simply forgot how to write. It was a dark age in the truest sense. A great silence descended upon the world. The question that has haunted historians and archaeologists for over a century is why? To solve a mystery this big, you need to look at the suspects. First up is what some call a fury of nature. For a long time, this was just a theory, but modern science has given us a smoking gun. Analysis of ancient pollen and lakebed sediments shows that right around this time, the Mediterranean was hit by a severe, centuries-long mega-drought. Imagine the effect of that. Widespread crop failures, year after year. Famine, starvation. An empire can't field an army if it can't feed its people. And as if that weren't enough, there's evidence for another natural disaster, an earthquake storm. Geologists have found signs of a cascade of massive earthquakes that ripped through the region, toppling city walls and destroying critical infrastructure. It's like the planet itself turned against them. But nature alone might not be the whole story. Ancient records, especially from the Egyptians, speak of a new and terrifying threat. A mysterious coalition of invaders who swept in from the sea. The Egyptians called them the Sea Peoples. Inscriptions from the temple of Ramesses III show them in epic battles, Hordes of warriors in horned helmets, with their families in tow on ox carts, fighting with a desperation that suggests they weren't just raiders, they were migrants. An entire people on the move, displaced from their own ruined homelands, carving a path of destruction as they searched for a new place to live. For a long time, they were seen as the primary culprits, the barbarian horde that brought down civilization. But what if they weren't the cause of the collapse? What if they were a symptom? This brings us to our final and most chilling suspect, the system itself. Remember how interconnected and sophisticated their world was? That was its greatest strength and its fatal flaw. It was a civilization built like a house of cards. Each empire depended on the others for vital resources. The Mycenaeans needed Hittite grain. The Hittites needed Egyptian gold. Everyone needed copper and tin to make bronze, the essential metal for their tools and weapons. Now, imagine what happens to that system when you introduce a perfect storm. The mega-drought hits, and suddenly there's not enough grain to go around. Trade routes break down. People begin to starve. Earthquakes shatter a key port city, severing a vital link in the supply chain. Internal rebellions break out as desperate people rise up against their kings. Whole populations are forced to migrate, becoming the sea peoples, who then attack their neighbors, causing even more chaos. It's a domino effect, a catastrophic systems collapse. Every crisis amplified the others, until the entire complex structure just shattered. The very thing that made them so successful, their interconnectedness, became the mechanism of their own undoing. And this is where this ancient story becomes a chilling lesson for us today. Think about our world, a globalized network of trade, where a disruption in one country can cause shortages thousands of miles away. A planet-wide communication system that depends on fragile infrastructure, and a global climate that is changing in ways we are only just beginning to understand. The Bronze Age collapse is a stark reminder that no civilization, no matter how advanced or powerful, is guaranteed to last forever. Complexity is not the same thing as resilience. The great silence that fell over their world shows us what's at stake when a highly interdependent system is pushed past its breaking point. The questions left by the collapse are what drive us to explore these historical enigmas. What are your theories on the collapse? Do you think one factor was more important than the others? Share your thoughts in the comments below. And if you enjoy journeys into the past's greatest secrets, consider subscribing and joining our quest to understand what was lost.